more determined than ever to crush Cobra with awesome new combat divisions. G.I.Joe Battle Corps. We're gonna knock you...
Hey, welcome to Half the Battle.
We have finally arrived, ranking all 1993 G.I. Joe figures.
But how the hell am I supposed to do that?
Well, as you can see in the title, I'm splitting this year up in multiple parts to keep it manageable. So, one video for the Joes and one for the bad guys. I might do one for the Street Fighter sub-series, but only if there's interest in that, so let me know. Also, for the Joes, I'm leaving out the Rapid Deployment mail-in figures since they are identical to previous versions. Though I do have to mention Fast Draw, who according to YoJoe.com didn't even come with his visor. Major fail there. Even with all that, with just the Joes alone, we still have to look at 60 frickin' figures.
60! How in the world did they even achieve that?
Well, repaints. Lots and lots of repaints. In fact, we're starting with a repaint, Ace version 3, which is just last year's figure with a new paint job, and it's a good looking figure. Looks even better than the blue one. It's also in very real danger of being bland because he looks like a generic pilot, but he's just so cool. So he goes into the good tier. Next is Dino Hunter Ambush, and you know things have gone completely off the rails, not only because of the ugly orange,
but also because there's a figure called Dino Hunter Ambush.
The dino bit is weird, but the figure itself is ruined by the color, and not even that magnificent moustache can save him from the ugly part of the bad and ugly tier. Repaints galore, as next is Backblast version 2, who's a pretty okay figure, but not as good as the original. And his intricate accessory set from V1 is replaced by generic weapons, so that pushes him into the bland tier.
At last we get our first new sculpt of 1993.
Unfortunately, it's Banzai, who I should hate, but he looks so ridiculous that I can't help but laugh. So he escapes the bad tier and gets a firm place in the weird one. This also marks the return of Ninja Force to the list. Barricade version 2 is basically the same as the first, with red instead of blue, so he gets put in the same place in the weird tier.
And speaking of weird...
Bazooka. They turned Bazooka into a freaking fisherman. I don't really need to say anything else, do I? He's a fisherman. Let's just put him in the weird tier and forget this ever happened. Normalcy returns with Beachhead, who has a brand new sculpt, and it's awesome. It does look like a cop, so this could have been a new Shockwave, but it's not. One thing against it is the accessory set. They're generic guns, and they are an awful neon yellow. Now, normally this would disqualify it from the best tier,
but this is my list!
And I'm gonna ignore the guns and place it in the best tier anyway, because I like it so much. Big Bear version 2 was a mail-in and part of the International Action Force set, and I gotta say, he looks even better than the original. Not quite best tier, but the cool color scheme puts him in the good tier.
We're staying with that mail-in set.
As next is Big Ben, who I'm sorry to say doesn't look as good as the first version, but it's still pretty nice, so he also goes into the good tier. And now there's a brand new sub-team as we meet one of the Mega Marines, Blast Off. And oh boy is that hideous, not to mention Goofy. So Goofy, I'm almost tempted to put it into the weird tier, but since it's called the good but weird tier, my conscience won't allow that, so the only place for him is in the bad tier. Another part of the International Action Force is Budo, even though he's American, born in California, but you can see how they'd get confused because of the look. It's not as nice as version 1, but since he still looks like a cosplayer, he goes into the weird tier. Hasbro decided they weren't doing the Drug Elimination Force anymore in 1993, I guess they lost a war on drugs, but they still had figures for it, so they just put him into the main Battle Corps line. Such was the case for Bulletproof version 2. And they gave him ugly bright yellow for highlights and the camo pattern, which I feel sorta defeats the purpose of camouflage. Yeah, this version plunges into the bad and ugly tier. There's more Ninja Force with Bushido. I haven't changed my mind since doing the Arctic tier list, so he stays in the good but weird tier.
We've only just now gotten to the end of the letter B. I think I might die. I just hope the next figure is good. Well, crap.
Oh yeah, we're back to Mega Marines with Clutch.
I'm not using the Godfather clip, but I should.
There's Ugly, and then there's this thing. Why the orange? This is the poster child for bad neon 90s G.I. Joe figures. Yes, of course it goes into the worst tier. Colonel Courage is pretty decent, but the light green clashes with the rest of his outfit, and the neon accessories are an eyesore. He still makes it into the good tier, but just barely. Countdown is another repaint and looks about as good as the original, but is hampered by ugly accessories. It's kind of a theme this year to the point where I'm gonna just start ignoring them a little unless they are particularly bothersome, so I'm putting Countdown in the good tier. Cross Country is a vehicle driver that didn't come with a vehicle. It's also the only Joe wearing washed out jeans. It's an interesting figure but ruined by the neon orange, so he goes into the bad and ugly tier. Repaint time again with Cutter, and here the colors are an improvement as they make him look more unique. So unlike the previous version, this one gets lifted out of the bland tier and into the good one. DJ introduces us to the Arctic Commandos mail-in set, and just like in my Arctic tier list, he goes into the weird tier again.
Another mail-in and another bloody repaint.
Deep 6. And we can't look at this thing for very long because we'll all go blind. That is one loud figure. Now, this may shock you, it may surprise you, but I'm gonna put this one in the bad and ugly tier. New mold time with Duke. And gee, I wonder, what kind of real-life events could have inspired the look of this figure? Could it be how soldiers looked during Operation Desert Storm 2 years earlier? I guess we'll never know. But hey, it's a great look, and even the accessories, though generic, look decent, so I'm putting him in the best tier. And that wasn't even the only Duke we got in 1993. There was also one in yet another new sub-team, Star Brigade. Oh, Countdown was also in Star Brigade, I just forgot to mention that. And actually, he's in a sub-team of a sub-team as he's part of the Armor Tech series, meaning he looks like this. Okay, even Tony Stark would call this a bit much. And where the hell does his left arm go? Easy pick for the weird tier. I haven't changed my mind on Frostbite since doing the Arctic list, so he stays in the bland tier. General Flag is basically the same figure as from 92, same accessories even, but with a black bomber jacket, which looks even better on him, so he gets the same spot as last year in the good tier. Back to Star Brigade and Armor Tech with General Hawk. Don't have much to say here. I like the colors, but yeah, he's gonna be joining Duke in the weird tier, just because of the whole concept. Now put on your sunglasses because Hawk also got a second figure, a mail-in one that looks like this.
Oh, that hurts.
That's as bad as Deep 6, so we can join him in the bad and ugly tier. He does have one thing though. Remember the 92 tier list where I complained they should have made that Hawk a supersonic fighter and give him Blood's jetpack? I swear, I didn't know this when they said that, but they did just that with this version.
So I kinda predicted the future, but it's the future in the past. Moving on.
The repaints never end as we come to Gung Ho. Not much to say here, it's still a good figure, but I think the 1992 colors are better. I'm happy to put this one into the good tier though. And at least there's no neon colors here. Glad Gung Ho didn't suffer that indignity. Anyway, here's Mega Marine's Gung Ho.
Yikes!
The real tragedy is this is a pretty good mold. It's outstanding in different colors, as this convention exclusive version proves. I haven't mentioned this yet, but the Mega Marine's gimmick was they had Play-Doh armor. So because of that, and because the figure has a good mold, I'll allow Gung Ho into the weird tier. Back to Armor Tech with Heavy Duty. I'm not sure I see the point of green armor with camo stripes in space. Also, why does the helmet have horns? This figure is just baffling, but it's also ugly, so I can't put it in the weird tier as it deserves to be in the bad and ugly one. You know, this list is long, that's why I'm so glad I did the Arctic list, as I can just point to it, and that's all I need to justify putting Iceberg in the bad and ugly tier again. Keelhaul version 2 is yet another repaint, and they just kinda gave him an ugly jacket. It's not ugly enough for that tier though, so I guess I'll put him into the good tier, but I'm not very enthusiastic about it. Law. Oh man. What is this? I don't even... Yeah, I have no idea what is going on with this figure.
I mean, that's a lot to take in.
Also, yet again, his dog is missing. This figure is so incomprehensible to me, I'm not sure what to do here. Wait, what am I saying? This figure is what the weird tier is for. Hell, Law here is king of the weird tier. Leatherneck.
Oh, the hits just keep on coming, don't they?
Is he supposed to be on safari? Did he skin a giraffe to make his pants? He's just lucky Law came right before him because I am out of F's to give. Maybe I missed a memo, but I don't think this was the Marines' dress code in 1993. He can go sit in the weird tier, a popular one this time. Long arm.
I am so tired.
Of course he's bright orange. Why wouldn't he be? Because 1993 hates me personally. Now, if you look at this figure, painful though that is, what would you say his function is? He looks like a bomb disposal guy, right? Wrong. He's a sort of SWAT guy who kicks down doors. And he was gonna be part of the drug elimination force before Hasbro cancelled that sub-team. Yeah, bad and ugly tier. High up too. Dino, Hunter, low light.
Please make it stop.
This mold was best tier, but look what they did to it. That yellow is a war crime. He and Ambush are lucky the Tyrannosaurus Rex vision is based on movement. Yes, I know scientists don't think that's true, but the joke doesn't work otherwise, so shut up. He goes in the bad and ugly tier, obviously. Mace. Finally, some sanity returns to this episode. Well, at least regarding the figure itself. It's quite nice, and I'm not even that bothered by the yellow, so it can go into the good tier.
However,
he comes with one of the most insane accessories in the history of G.I. Joe ever. Maybe in the history of toys. A helmet-mounted rocket launcher. Yeah, decapitate yourself, that'll show Cobra. That thing deserves a tier of its own. So I'm introducing the worst weird tier just for this abomination. Major altitude. Well, it's an improvement over the first one, I'll grant it that. But that doesn't mean I like it, it's just not as bad, but it still goes into the bad tier. Back to Mega Marines with Mirage, and I don't hate this one. In fact, it's the best Mega Marine.
though that is damning with faint praise.
Still, he's got a nice futuristic look and the neon is kept to a minimum, so he goes into the good tier. Well, the good times can't last, as next is Muskrat, another would-be DEF guy. Why does 1993 want to hurt me so? What did I ever do to it?
Well, I'm making this list for a start.
The mold isn't great, the orange is hideous, and it looks like he's got his undies on over his pants. And to top it all off, he comes with the same type of decapitating helmet rocket thing as Mace. He goes into the worst tier, and that helmet goes in the special tier. Mutt is another repurposed DEF figure, and looks more distinct than the previous one. And he comes with Junkyard, so I have no problem putting him in the good tier.
Guess who's back? Back again.
Outback's back. Twice! Yes, he got 2 figures in the Battlecore line.
And why is that?
Well, because DEF wasn't the only cancelled sub-team. Eco Warriors was mercifully taken out behind the shed and shot too. And this Outback was supposed to be an Eco Warrior, hence the weird colors. So weird tier it is. They released a more normal looking one later, and though I'm baffled why they're wearing what looks like a construction hat, this one still goes into the good tier. The same thing happened with Ozone, who also got 2 figures, both now in Star Brigade. Though there's nothing really Eco-Warrior about either of them, so the existence of 2 figures seems pointless. Like the original Ozone, they go into the good but weird tier. Payload version 3 is a disappointment. He went from having a beautiful astronaut suit to being a repaint of Eco-Warrior's barbecue, making me think this was another last-minute change to put this figure in the Star Brigade line. It doesn't make sense for Payload, so he goes into the bad tier. Like the 1992 one, this Roadblock is perfectly fine. Not much to say about it, easy entry for the good tier.
And Roadblock is another character that got 2 figures in 1993.
The second one being Star Brigade. And look! This is a perfectly nice astronaut suit. See how easy that was, Payload? Very happy with this, so he goes into the good tier. Well, my good mood goes down the drain because next is Robo-Joe. Look, I want to put this guy in the bad tier, perhaps even the worst one, mostly due to the orange, but it's such a bizarre concept I gotta call it weird.
Hey, didn't I add a special tier?
Yeah, good job, Robo. You go into the worst weird tier. Rock'n'Roll is the last Armor Tech figure, and he can just join Hawk and Duke in the weird tier, because I want to be done with this. Not just Armor Tech, but this never-ending video. Ninja Force Scarlet. Damn, those are some thunder ties, aren't they? They did you dirty, girl. I'm not a fan of the face sculpt either. I'm afraid it's gotta be the bad tier for her. Not because she's been a bad girl. No, that's the Baroness. Sci-Fi gets sent to Astro Brigade, and he does fit in. though I'm unsure how suitable that helmet is for outer space. Still, he pilots a spaceship, so I guess it's okay if he never needs to get out. It's a perfectly fine figure, so he goes into the good tier. Ninja Force Snake Eyes also didn't skip leg day. This just doesn't look good and the body construction really distracts, just like with Scarlet. Maybe if he had been in the first Ninja Force series, he would have gotten a better figure. This one goes into the bad tier. The two, yes, count them, 2 snowstorms, go in the same places they did on the Arctic list. Blue one is bad, orange one is worst. By the way, the orange one was supposed to be an eco-warrior.
Which explains so much.
Spirit is the last member of the International Action Force, even though he's Native American and you can't get more American than that. His look is also a major improvement on the first use of the mold, so I'll gladly offer him a spot in the good tier.
Look, this video is already like 12 hours long, so I'm gonna do the next 2 together.
That's because they're Arctic Commando, Stalker, and Sub-Zero. Deadliest of enemies, but slaves under my power. Like on the Arctic list, they go into the bland tier. The almost unpronounceable Kinzu is the last Ninja Force figure of 1993. And he's just a repainted Ninja Force Storm Shadow with a stupid orange face mask. It kinda ruins the figure for me, so he goes into the bad tier. Okay, just 2 more to go. I think I can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Or at least I think I can see a bright light beckoning me. Is that you, Grandpapa?
Wetsuit, repaint number 306 this year, is still a fine figure, but since I don't like neon orange and I've had to sit through so much of it today, he drops down to the good tier.
And finally, effing finally, the last Joe.
Wild Bill, and it's just the exact same figure as the previous one, only with white pants, so of course he gets into the same tier, the weird one, because he looks like a cosplayer. Kind of an anticlimax, but there you go. That was the list. All 60 freaking Joes plus 2 accessory sets.
There isn't enough alcohol in Belgium to help me get over this.
Feel free to disagree with where I placed what in the comments below, and I will feel free to not care. Of course, we're only halfway through, so next time we're ranking all 1993 bad guys. And after that, if you want me to do the Street Fighter figures, do let me know that in the comments too.
I'm gonna go and have like all of the beer now. I'll see you next time, everybody. And hey, why not like, share, and subscribe if that's your thing.
Bigger, tougher, and more determined than ever to crush Cobra with awesome new combat divisions. G.I.Joe Battle Corps.